So, you're staring at that dreaded loading screen? Again? Yeah, you're not alone. We are constantly being promised faster, better internet, but what's really the difference between fiber, 5G, and the good old cable you probably have right now? Let's get into it.
Right? It's that moment when your video call freezes or the movie just spins and spins. That frustration is universal. And all the internet providers, they promise us the world, don't they? They use all these terms like blazing fast and next gen. But today, we're going to see what those promises actually mean in the real world.
So, first up, we're on a quest for better Wi-Fi. This is all about figuring out what you're actually getting for your money when you sign up for a new plan.
You've definitely heard the buzzwords, blazing fast, ultra-reliable, but the tech behind those catchy phrases is completely different. So let's meet the main contenders in this fight.
Okay, it's time to meet the three big players in the home internet game, and we'll start with the one that most of us have probably been using for years.
Cable. This is the classic. It comes into your house using the exact same lines as cable TV. Now, its biggest pro is that it's pretty much everywhere. But here's the catch. You're sharing that connection with your whole street. Think of it like a highway. At 5 p.m., things can get pretty slow.
Next up is 5G home internet. Now, this is totally wireless. It uses the same network your phone does, and its #1 selling point, convenience, hands down. They literally mail your box, you plug it in, and boom, you're online. No more waiting around for a technician to show up. And finally, we have fiber. This is the top dog right now. It actually sends data as pulses of light through tiny glass cables. The result is an unbelievably fast and stable connection. It is the undisputed king of speed. But its biggest weakness is that it's just not available everywhere yet.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the hype. Cable promises to be available and, fast enough for most people. 5G promises total simplicity and a wireless future. And fiber promises pure, raw speed and rock-solid stability. It all sounds pretty great, right? But what happens when these promises meet the real world?
This is where things get really interesting. We're going to dig into a real-world test that puts 5G, probably the most hyped of all these technologies, right under the microscope.
This quote from a tech editor over at Android Police, it just kind of sets the perfect stage. After years of hearing about the 5G revolution, the reality of finally getting it at his own house didn't quite live up to the ads. So let's follow his journey.
So get this, 5G first launched way back in 2019. But for this journalist, it turned into a multi-year waiting game. Slowed down by network upgrades and the pandemic. Then, finally, years later, that magical little 5G icon appeared on his phone. The moment of truth was here.
So what does he do? He runs a speed test. On his old, reliable 4G network, he gets a pretty decent 114 megabits per second. Not bad. And then, on the shiny, new, next-generation 5G network, 112. That's right. It was actually a tiny bit slower. So, what on earth is going on here?
Well, there are a few reasons this can happen. See, those first 5G tests back in 2019 were on brand new, empty networks with different gear. Today, those networks have way more people on them. And this wasn't just a one-off thing. A separate test in the US found pretty similar results, with 5G downloads not being a huge leap over 4G. But 5G did have one massive, clear advantage: latency. Latency is basically the reaction time of your connection, and the test showed it improved by a whopping 64%. So what does that mean? While 5G might not download a huge movie file any faster, it feels snappier, and that's a huge deal for things like competitive online gaming.
Okay, so now that we have that reality check, how do you actually pick the right service for you? Let's walk through a super practical way to figure this out.
It really just boils down to these 3 steps. First, be real about what you actually do online. Second, and this is crucial, check what you can even get where you live. The best internet plan on earth is useless if they can't connect your house. And third, read the fine print. That super cheap intro price can hide equipment fees or a giant price jump after year 1.
So you just have to ask, which one of these are you? For most of us doing everyday stuff, streaming, working from home, browsing, cable and 5G are honestly good enough. But if you're a serious gamer, a YouTuber, or your house is full of smart devices, you're going to want the high performance of fiber. And if convenience is your top priority, especially if you're a renter who moves a lot, that simple 5G setup is an absolute game changer.
So let's wrap this all up with one final thought, one that goes a little deeper than just speed. The future of our internet might not be exactly what we think it is.
Remember our journalist? He realized that even though the 5G speeds were a little disappointing, the bigger network upgrade meant he finally had a strong, reliable signal at his house for the first time ever. He could actually make phone calls and use data without being tied to his Wi-Fi. The real win wasn't speed, it was just having a connection that finally worked.
And that really leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? In this constant chase for the fastest possible connection, are we maybe overlooking the value of something that's just stable, reliable, and good enough for what we really need? It's definitely something to think about next time you see one of those ads for blazing fast speeds. Thanks for tuning into this explainer.